With me I have Tzipi Livni, who is the leader of the Israeli opposition, the first woman to hold this position ever. She also heads the largest Israeli party, Kadima, and is a former Minister of Foreign Affairs. Ms. Livni, thank you very much for joining us here on RT. We've just celebrated the 9th of May. What does Victory Day mean for Israelis?
Well, Victory Day is a very important day, not only for the veterans, but in a way they stopped the ultimate evil. And for the Jewish people, this is something that stopped the Holocaust and the horrific idea of demolishing or exterminating people. So basically, it's these days about saying thank you for those who decided to stop the evil and those who decided to join the war, to leave their homes and to fight. And maybe in a way this was the beginning of the establishment of the State of Israel a few years later.
We've also just seen the start of proximity talks between Israelis and Palestinians. But bearing in mind it wasn't so long ago when they were talking directly, is this really a step forward?
Peace with the Palestinians is an Israeli interest. But I believe that the proximity talks can be used, and this is also an opportunity for Israel, for the Palestinians and for the United States to learn where the parties are. It's not a secret that there were political changes in Israel. And it is not a secret that there are differences between us, between my party, between me and the Prime Minister. But since I believe that peace is an Israeli interest, I believe that any progress, including the proximity talks, can be the opportunity. And I believe that this is the test of all the participants, Israel, the Palestinians, and also the United States.
If you were Prime Minister today, would you be doing anything different in the negotiations?
Oh, yes. I would continue the negotiations with the Palestinians from where we stopped. The leaders need to understand that the option of stagnation doesn't serve the interest of their people, not the Palestinians, not the Israelis.
One of the thorny issues, of course, is that of settlement building. Many in the international community claim that the Israeli settlement building is illegal. As the former Minister of Justice and a law graduate, what is your opinion?
I believe that this is less important. In '67, after the 6 Days War, all of us basically believed that this is about coming back to the land of our forefathers. But basically this is not the idea anymore. So it is less important whether you think that it is building in the homeland of our forefathers or it is something which is against the international law. The most important thing for Israel today is to define its borders, which are going to be the borders of the Palestinian state, and while doing so, to include most of the settlers that basically lives in what we call blocks of settlements that takes only a few percentage of the West Bank as part of Israel. Basically, when we negotiated, it was clear that we are not trying to grab more land in order to change realities on the ground, but we try to give an answer to realities on the ground that were created for 40 years now.
Salam Fayyad has spoken about the unilateral declaration of a Palestinian state. Is this something you would support? And do you think that Fayyad could be an alternative option for Israel instead of Mahmoud Abbas, the current Palestinian president?
Well, it's not for me to decide for the Palestinians who their leaders are, and basically I highly appreciate Mahmoud Abbas, and I think that he is the supporter of two states for two people, something that represents the Palestinian interest. And when Mahmoud Abbas was thinking about quitting, I personally called him to say, don't quit.
But it was your party that stood on the platform of a unilateral withdrawal of Israelis from Gaza. In retrospect, do you think that that was the wrong decision?
I preferred then also to reach an agreement with the Palestinians, but I believe that it is good or the right thing to do is not to be in Gaza Strip. The problem is, well, Israel dismantled the settlements, we pulled out our forces, and I believe that this is a good idea as long as Israel can keep its right to defend itself, as we did in the operation in Gaza Strip. But in fact, the fact that Hamas took Gaza hostage is something that doesn't represent the interest of the Palestinians, and it is being used And I can understand them by those who say, okay, when we leave these places, Hamas is going to take control.
You are the subject of an arrest warrant by the United Kingdom for your role in Operation Cast Lead, Israel's war in Gaza just over a year ago. Were you surprised by this, and do you think it will negatively affect bilateral relations between both countries?
I hope that this is going to be changed. By the way, I was willing to come to Britain and to make my case, the test case, because I don't see myself and I don't believe that somebody is going to say that I am a war criminal, especially after the disengagement from Gaza, as I just said. I cannot accept any comparison between an Israeli soldier and a terrorist.
You have accused Syria of playing a double game. Do you think that Syrian President Bashar Assad can be trusted to fulfill his role in any future Israeli-Syrian peace deal?
For now, it needs to be tested on the ground, and for now it looks like that he enhanced the ties and connections with Iran. He supports Hezbollah and Hamas. Both of them are terrorist organizations with not the same, but basically extreme religious ideology that is not willing to accept the right of Israel to exist. So at the end of the day, peace between Israel and Syria is not only about embassies in Israel and in Damascus, but it is more about, from our perspective, the willingness of Bashar Assad to disconnect Syria from this group, or stopping his support for this terrorist organization.
Would you be prepared to relinquish the Golan Heights in any future Israeli-Syrian peace deal?
This is something that should be part of the negotiations between Israel and Syria. We are not there yet.
We hear so much about how bad the humanitarian situation is in Gaza. From the reports you receive, just how serious is it?
The way, according to my understanding, the problem is not the humanitarian situation, because the crossings are open for humanitarian needs. The problem in Gaza, for those who live in Gaza, is that it is closed in a way Hamas governs them is not legitimate, and rightly so. The international community gave clear requirements to Hamas to accept the right of Israel to exist, to renounce violence and terrorism, and to accept former agreements between Israel and the Palestinians. They are not willing to do so, so they are not legitimate. And it's against the Palestinian interests as well.
Is toppling the Hamas regime an option at the moment for Israel?
I deeply support peace treaty between Israel and the Palestinians, but I'm not willing to give the keys of the future Palestinian state to Hamas.
On the topic of Iran and the whole question on whether or not it's building nuclear arms, is it an option for Israel to strike Iran alone?
I think that the only responsible answer should be that all the options are on the table, but now this is time for more effective sanctions in order to change the Iranian decision or goal to achieve a nuclear weapon. This is not only an Israeli interest, this is the interest of the world. Unfortunately, the need for a consensus led to less effective sanctions in the past. Time is of the essence, and this is now the goal for the near future. But I think that the Iranians need to know that the world, not Israel, the world is not going to accept them with nuclear weapon. And you can hear this, by the way, in Arabic, not only in Hebrew and English.
Ms. Livni, thank you very much for joining us here on RT.